So there are a lot of combat sport events on today, and one of those, Paul Hughes got a massive KO win over Jan Quayhagen, like generally a really, really good knockout. And I think he's UFC ready. I generally do. 10-1 now. Only loss was to Jordan Vucenic in a split decision that he avenged, where he just completely demolished Jordan Vucenic for like 5 rounds. I think it was like a 50-44 on one of the scorecards, maybe 50-43. Could be misremembering that, but I know he just completely destroyed him. Just put a beating on him. And Jordan Vucenic is a pretty good fighter. Both of these guys have wins over UFC fighter Morgan Charrier. So obviously they're pretty good. Morgan Charrier's in the UFC, but Paul Hughes and Jordan Vucenic are not. I don't know. It doesn't make sense to me. But yeah, he generally destroyed them. They both generally Paul Hughes generally destroyed Jordan Vucenic, and he had a pretty competitive fight with Charrier, but he did win it. Like, I don't know. I think Paul Hughes is pretty good, man. I think he's a genuine good prospect. He's from Ireland. The UFC are always looking to get into the Irish market. They've got Ian Gary, who he's not really a fan favorite to some people. A lot of people don't really like the guy. I can see why. Sometimes he's alright, but then he does some weird stuff. But, you know, Paul Hughes, he's got some personality too. He's a fun fighter. Uh, like I say, he comes out of Ireland. And the thing is, the UFC should sign this guy before fucking PFL Europe go up and they take another European prospect. Because the UFC already missed out on Cedric Doumbé and the Lazy King. They really shouldn't want to miss out on another prospect. They're going to have no European prospects at this rate because the PFL keeps snatching them all up. Like, the UFC should be smart about this. They've signed every fucking man and his dog from fucking Ireland, but Paul Hughes. Paul Hughes is like the only like Irish fighter they haven't signed. They signed Caroline Loughran. They signed Shauna Barron. Who else did they sign? They signed what's the bloke's name? He fought Kevin Doucette. Kiefer Crosby. He fought Kiefer Crosby. I mean, he fought Kiefer Crosby, but Kiefer Crosby also from Ireland. They've re-signed Rhys McKee, but there's no Paul Hughes. Paul Hughes needs to be signed to the UFC. Like, the guy's genuinely a good prospect. He has a really good style, puts on dominant performances, seems to have the 5-round cardio. He's got some star power. He's from Ireland. That's always a good market for the UFC. And the guy comes to fight every time. And also, he's just generally a good fighter. Like, I don't see why they wouldn't sign him. If you've signed Morgan Charrier because you want to pander to the French market, then maybe sign the guy who beat him pretty, convincingly. I think that'd make a lot of sense. But the UFC doesn't make a lot of sense nowadays. Their signings are always so weird. They'll sign the weirdest fighters, but God forbid you sign someone who actually deserves and is a good prospect from that region. Like, they'll sign like the fourth best fighter from a region and then let the PFL scoop up the best fighter from that region. Like, I don't know, the UFC have got to stop doing that. It's setting a very bad precedent that the best aren't going to the UFC anymore. But I think Paul Hughes is one of the best outside the UFC in Europe, but it's definitely in Ireland. I think he's the best non-signed Irish fighter. Maybe there's someone else I don't know about, but I'm pretty confident in saying Paul Hughes is the best non-signed Irish fighter. But yeah, it would be good, especially with Conor McGregor coming back soon. Maybe you could have him fight on Conor McGregor's undercard. He's an Irish featherweight. Conor McGregor at one point was an Irish featherweight. Like, you build up Ian Gary as like a Conor McGregor 2.0. Well, Paul Hughes literally fights in the same division that Conor McGregor does, and he's just moved up to lightweight for a fight. So it would make a lot of sense for the UFC to market this guy. You could literally market him as like a Conor 2.0. Now, maybe they'll backfire because, Ian Gary tried the same thing and now everybody hates him because of him being a Conor McGregor wannabe. But I don't think Paul Hughes is a Conor McGregor wannabe. Like he isn't. Like Ian Gary's like a complete and utter Conor McGregor fanboy. But respect to him. McGregor came up when he was like a young kid, so it does make sense. And I guess it's probably the same with Paul Hughes. I haven't really seen many interviews. Like I haven't watched any interviews where he talks about McGregor, but I'm sure there is some out there. But yeah, I don't know. The UFC, don't miss out on Paul Hughes like you did the Lazy King and Cedric Doumbé. Missing out on Cedric Doumbé was the biggest fumble the UFC's ever done. He's a fucking superstar, and they've already missed out on him. Like massive L from the UFC. So don't make the same mistake again. I think Paul Hughes could be something special. He's young as well. I forget how old he is. Uh, Let me check. I believe he's in his like early 20s. How old? How old are you, Paul Hughes? So he's 26. So he's still pretty young, but I thought he was a bit younger. But still, I think he only just turned 26. So he's got plenty of time. But I think they should sign him now. You know, he's built up a lot of experience outside the UFC. 10-1 now against good level of competition as well. Like he's generally beat really good fighters. Let me read out the resumes of the guys he's beat. Obviously, I did mention Morgan Charrier, who is already in the UFC, but he beat 11-4 Jan Quayhagen today, who's a lightweight, first fight at lightweight. Beat 9-1 Jordan Vucenic. Beat 15-8 Morgan Charrier, who is in the UFC. Beat 6-0 James Hendon. 7-2 Aiden Stephen. Beat Yuri Panda 4-1. 2-0 Kafila Saidi. 4-2 Mateus Makrowoski. 0-0 Stephen O'Neill, and then 2-0 Adam Gustap. And what's Stephen O'Neill's record now? Oh, he never fought again. But still, for that record, that's pretty good. Like no cans on that record. Only a 0-0 guy, and that's his second fight. So obviously that makes a little bit sense. It's not like he's just took that fight like his last fight or something. Like he's beat generally good guys, and I just think it's time for the UFC to give him an opportunity. Just sign him straight to the UFC. Don't make the same mistake you made with George Hardwick and give him like some fucking top regional champion and then you miss out on two prospects. Just sign Paul Hughes and see how he does, in my opinion. I think that makes the most sense. It'll be interesting to see though. Like he's generally really good, man. Go watch some of his fights on Fight Pass. Go rewatch some of his Cage Warrior performances. His best performance that I've seen personally was his fight against Jordan Vucenic, the second fight. He looked so well rounded in that fight and just dominated the whole time. So yeah, that's definitely a go-to performance. But today also he got a nice highlight reel KO over at lightweight in his lightweight debut. So yeah, like I say, plenty of fights to go watch. But yeah, keep your eye on Paul Hughes, and I think we'll be seeing him signed to the UFC soon because the UFC just signed Omar Sy, a French fighter, so maybe they're looking to expand more into the European market. I know they've signed a lot of French fighters, so maybe that's just a French thing, but I'm sure they're going to go to Dublin soon. Dana White said that if Ian Gary wins his next fight or something, they'd look at going to Dublin for like a fight night. So you've already signed all these Irish fighters. It only makes sense that you would sign another one in Paul Hughes, who's the best, literally the best one. I think he's better than Reese McKee. I think he's better than Carolyn Loughran. I think he's better than Kiefer Crosby. I definitely think he's better than Bannon. But still, like, come on, UFC, what are you doing, man? Don't fumble this, man. I know I'm repeating myself a little bit here, but just don't repeat the mistakes you made with PFL Europe. Literally scooped up fucking the Lazy King and fucking Cedric Doumbé in one of the worst fumbles in like mixed martial arts history. But anyway, that's all I've got to say. Sign Paul Hughes, in my opinion. I don't think it's a crazy take. I think the guy's generally good. Go watch some highlights or something. And yeah, that's all I've got to say. If you made it this far into the video, make sure you give it a like. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below on Paul Hughes as a prospect. And if you ain't already, subscribe. And I'll see you guys in the next video. Thanks for watching.